Gwyneth Paltrow has been selling you wellness for 16 years, but when you line up the real timeline, the deleted evidence, and the industry fallout happening right now behind closed doors, her billion-dollar GOOP empire looks less like a passion project and more like a house of cards built on pseudoscience, lawsuits, and workplace chaos that could finally take her down. From a $145,000 vaginal egg scandal to recent bombshell accusations of a toxic workplace culture that drove employees out the door, the Oscar winner who convinced millions to steam their private parts is now facing her biggest crisis yet. The deleted social media posts, the settlement agreements her lawyers hoped you would forget, and the financial numbers that completely contradict the success story she's been pushing are all about to come to light. What started as a weekly newsletter in 2008 has turned into a controversy machine that regulators, former employees, and even wellness experts have been trying to expose for years. And in 2025, the receipts finally started piling up in ways even her PR team could not spin away. Now, before we get into the timeline they are trying to scrub, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell. The mainstream media is currently being paid to bury this story, but I'm showing you the receipts they deleted and the context they are too scared to post. Do not let the PR spin win. Join the drip right now. Let us start with the financial truth that GOOP does not want you to know. According to industry filings analyzed in 2025, GOOP generates an estimated $155.9 million in annual revenue. That sounds impressive until you realize the company raised $75 million in total funding, and according to multiple financial reports from 2013, the brand was operating with net liabilities exceeding £540,000. Even after years of growth that saw revenues double year over year between 2014 and 2016, sources close to the company confirmed in Amy Odell's unauthorized biography that GOOP has not achieved consistent profitability. Think about that. 16 years in business, $75 million in investor cash, hundreds of millions in revenue, and the company still cannot turn a reliable profit. That is not a wellness empire. That is a branding exercise that burns through capital faster than one of their $1,500 jade rollers can cure your anxiety. But that is where the story stops making sense. If GOOP is bleeding money and struggling to stay profitable, why does Gwyneth keep doubling down on controversy? The answer might be that controversy is the business model. In September 2018, GOOP agreed to pay a $145,000 settlement with California prosecutors after being sued for making unscientific health claims about products including jade and rose quartz vaginal eggs that the company claimed could boost sexual energy and regulate hormones. The lawsuit explicitly stated that GOOP had zero scientific backing for these claims. California district attorneys from 10 counties came together to take her down, and instead of fighting it, GOOP quietly settled and moved on. Most brands would collapse under that kind of regulatory smackdown. GOOP used it as free advertising. Within months of the settlement, the eggs were still being talked about across every tabloid and talk show in America. Traffic to the website spiked. Sales tripled year over year in 2018 compared to 2017. Gwyneth did not just survive the scandal, she monetized it. And that's not even the worst part. The vaginal egg lawsuit was just the beginning. In 2018, GOOP also settled over claims involving a flower essence blend the company said could fight depression. Again, no scientific evidence. Again, a quiet settlement. Again, the headlines drove millions of curious visitors straight to the GOOP storefront. The pattern is impossible to ignore. Launch a pseudoscientific product, wait for the backlash, settle quietly, bank the publicity, repeat. On one hand, this looks like a textbook PR stunt designed to hijack news cycles and keep GOOP in the conversation. On the other hand, the messiness of these legal battles and the real financial penalties suggest this is not controlled chaos. This is a company walking the razor edge between viral marketing and regulatory disaster. Now, let us talk about what happened in 2025, because this is where the clickbait title stops being clickbait and becomes receipts. In July 2025, journalist Amy Odell published an unauthorized biography called Gwyneth that dropped a bombshell accusation. According to Odell, who interviewed over 220 sources, GOOP operated under a chaotic and at times toxic workplace culture that led to mass employee turnover. Odell wrote that the company lurched from one Gwyneth's ideas to another without a clear business plan, hemorrhaging staff and burning investor goodwill in the process. Former employees described a culture where confrontation was avoided, toxic individuals were allowed to stay too long, and leadership direction changed depending on whatever wellness trend Gwyneth was obsessed with that month. One source described it as working inside a vision board that kept getting erased and redrawn every quarter. Gwyneth fired back in October 2025 in interviews with Vogue UK and other outlets, but her defense only made things worse. She admitted that yes, GOOP had a couple of toxic people, and yes, she waited too long to fire them because of her fear of confrontation. That's a direct quote. She said her avoidance created a ripple effect, and she takes full responsibility. But then, in the same breath, she claimed GOOP has an incredible culture and that the toxic workplace rumors drive her insane. You can't have it both ways. Either you let toxic people poison your company culture for months or years because you were scared of conflict, or you run a tight ship with an incredible culture. The contradiction is glaring, and the fact that she confirmed the core accusations while trying to deny them shows exactly how bad the internal situation must have been. Here's the deleted truth that her PR team does not want in the headlines. Multiple reports suggest that senior GOOP executives and editors quietly exited the company between 2023 and 2025 without public explanations. Their LinkedIn profiles were scrubbed of details, exit interviews were buried under NDAs. Industry insiders who spoke on background to Odell described a roving door in the executive suite, with hires brought in to professionalize the company, only to leave within 18 months after clashing with Gwyneth's instinct-driven management style. This is not normal turnover. This is a pattern that suggests deep structural dysfunction at the leadership level. And here's what makes this career-threatening for Gwyneth. Her entire brand is built on the idea that she has figured out the secret to living well. She sells balance, empowerment, self-care, and inner peace. But behind the scenes, according to dozens of sources, she allegedly runs a company where employees felt unsupported, leadership was reactive instead of strategic, and confrontation was avoided even when it hurt the business. The cognitive dissonance is staggering. How can you sell $10,000 wellness retreats about finding your truth when your own employees say you couldn't face the truth about toxic staff members for years? Let us also talk about the legal and regulatory pressure that is still building. The 2018 settlement didn't end the scrutiny. Wellness watchdogs, medical professionals, and consumer protection advocates have continued to flag GOOP products for making misleading or exaggerated health claims. In 2025, GOOP faced renewed criticism for promoting supplements and treatments that lacked FDA approval or peer-reviewed clinical evidence. While the company has added disclaimers to their website, critics argue these disclaimers are buried in fine print and do not undo the aspirational marketing that convinces everyday consumers to spend hundreds of dollars on unproven therapies. The Federal Trade Commission hasn't taken formal action yet, but sources in the regulatory space say GOOP is absolutely on their radar, especially as consumer complaints continue to pile up. So what is the industry fallout? First, brand partnerships are getting harder to secure. According to sources who work in influencer marketing and brand collaborations, some major retailers and distributors have quietly distanced themselves from GOOP in the last 2 years, concerned about reputational risk and potential liability. Second, investor confidence is reportedly shaky. With inconsistent profitability and ongoing controversy, new funding rounds are harder to close, and existing backers are allegedly pressuring Gwyneth to bring in professional management and step back from day-to-day creative control. Third, the toxic workplace allegations have created a talent recruitment problem. Top-tier executives in the wellness and e-commerce space are reportedly hesitant to join GOOP because of the company's chaotic reputation, making it even harder to stabilize operations and build long-term strategy. What you're about to hear next is what her team is actually afraid of. If another major regulatory lawsuit lands, especially one involving involving consumer harm or false advertising at scale, GOOP could face penalties that dwarf the $145,000 settlement from 2018. We're talking potential millions in fines, product recalls, and a consent decree that would force the company to pre-clear all health claims with regulators before publishing. That would kill the entire business model, which relies on pushing the envelope and generating controversy faster than regulators can respond. Without that edge, GOOP is just another overpriced lifestyle brand in an oversaturated market. There's also the Gwyneth fatigue factor. Even her most loyal fans are starting to question whether the constant controversy is worth defending. When you've spent 16 years being the punchline of every late-night monologue, at some point the joke stops being funny and starts being your legacy.
Industry analysts who track celebrity brands say Gwyneth is approaching a tipping point where the GOOP scandals overshadow her acting career, her Oscar, and any real contributions she has made to wellness conversations. If that happens, her cultural relevance collapses, and with it, the aspirational appeal that keeps customers buying overpriced candles and unproven supplements. So was the GOOP empire built on genuine belief or calculated exploitation? On one hand, Gwyneth seems to genuinely buy into the pseudoscience she promotes. Her interviews suggest she truly believes in jade eggs, vaginal steaming, and expensive supplements, which makes her less of a con artist and more of a true believer selling unproven ideas. On the other hand, the financial desperation, the pattern of courting controversy for publicity, and the toxic workplace dysfunction suggest a company that is less about wellness and more about keeping the lights on by any means necessary. The truth is probably somewhere in between. Gwyneth built an empire on her own privilege, celebrity, and willingness to ignore medical experts, and now that empire is crumbling under the weight of its own contradictions. Here is what happens next. If GOOP cannot achieve consistent profitability in the next 12 to 18 months, investors will force a sale, a merger, or a shutdown. If another major lawsuit lands, the brand could be permanently damaged beyond recovery. If the toxic workplace allegations continue to leak and more former employees go on record, Gwyneth's personal reputation as a wellness leader will be finished. And if consumers finally wake up to the fact that they have been spending thousands of dollars on products with no scientific backing, the whole house of cards comes down. The real timeline shows a company that has been in crisis mode since day one. The deleted evidence shows lawsuits, settlements, and employee exits that the PR machine tried to bury. And the industry fallout shows a brand that is running out of runway, out of goodwill, and out of time. Gwyneth Paltrow convinced the world she had the answers, but the receipts suggest she was just asking the wrong questions.